On my third wedding anniversary with my husband, Noah, his gift to me was a grand betrayal. His wedding abroad was live-streamed, as if he feared I might miss a single second. Staring at the happy smiles of the newlyweds on screen, I touched my abdomen, feeling unusually calm. Since he had already started a new family with someone else, then our child had no reason to be born. When he returned home, beaming with joy, his assistant hesitantly blocked his path. Mr. Noah, Mrs. Vance. She saw everything. She's already gone. He stood frozen, while I, at that very moment, was in his fiercest rival's office, handing over all his incriminating business secrets. It was our third anniversary. The entire mansion felt so hollow, I could hear the echo of my own heartbeat. On the wall, the expensive custom clock's hour hand ticked heavily, relentlessly, towards 8 o'clock. The homemade multi-course meal I had prepared on the table was stone cold. The cream on the cake's surface had congealed into a greasy, waxy texture. The candles had long since burned out, just like the 3 years of my youth I had spent. Noah never came home. I called him 3 times, but no one answered. I didn't call a fourth. The phone screen dimmed, reflecting my serene, unruffled face. But the next second, the screen abruptly lit up again. A financial news alert popped up, its headline in stark, crimson bold letters, Vance. CEO weds, a century's most wedding. My fingertips hovered above the screen, without a trace of tremor. I tapped on it. No redirect, no lag, a high-definition live stream instantly filled the entire screen. Azure sea, cerulean sky, white sands like snow. Countless guests sat on a lawn blanketed with white roses. At the center of the frame, my husband, Noah, in a crisp white suit, gazed tenderly at his bride, Olivia, his mistress of 2 years. She was dazzlingly beautiful today, the diamonds on her wedding dress refracting a million rays of light in the sun, almost burning my eyes. The priest was saying something. I couldn't hear, only saw Noah lower his head, take Olivia's hand, and slide a massive diamond ring onto her finger. The size was at least a full size larger than the one he had given me 3 years ago. He kissed the back of her hand, then looked up, his eyes holding a tenderness I had never witnessed, a gentle gaze as if he had crushed stars into them. Then, he leaned into the microphone, and with that deep, resonant voice I once adored, he proclaimed his vows to the entire world. I, Noah, take you, Olivia, to be my one and only wife. Every single word. Exactly the same as what I had heard in the church 3 years prior. A wave of nausea churned in my stomach. I didn't cry. Nor did I smash everything in sight, as he probably expected. I just watched silently, my right hand unconsciously resting on my slightly swollen abdomen. Inside, there was a 3-month-old life. A life he had flippantly acknowledged with a smile, saying, "Go ahead and have it, I'll support it." An overwhelming sense of humiliation and betrayal washed over me like a tsunami. I finally saw the truth. My love, my patience, my compromises, even the innocent child in my womb. In Noah's eyes, were nothing more than bargaining chips to be discarded at any moment. They were merely tools to keep me, his official wife, compliant, so he could peacefully marry his true love. On the live stream, he and Olivia embraced passionately amidst the cheers of the guests. He raised a glass of champagne, and even through the screen, his handsome face radiated an air of triumph, a winner's arrogance, as if he controlled everything. It was as if he was using this grand live broadcast to tell me, "Sophia, see? I can have both a virtuous wife like you and the woman I truly love. I don't have to lose anything. And you just have to accept it." I managed a wry smile and closed the live stream. The last image frozen on my phone screen was his smug, triumphant face. I scrolled through my contacts, finding a number that had sat there for 3 years, yet had never been dialed. The contact name was Julian. I sent him a text message. "Mr. Julian, interested in watching a good show?" Message sent. I got up and dumped the cold food from the table, along with the hideous cake, into the trash. Then, GYN specialist for the next day on the app. Under the procedure section, I distinctly selected, abortion procedure. The next day, at dawn, I sat alone on a cold bench in the hospital's obstetrics and gynecology department. The air was thick with the mingled sense of disinfectant and despair. People came and went in the hallway, some joyous, some anxious, some sorrowful. Only I remained, calm as a lifeless statue. The nurse called my name. "Sophia." I walked in. The doctor looked at my pregnancy test report, then up at me. "It's 3 months old, and the baby is healthy. Are you sure you don't want to keep it?" I nodded, my voice devoid of any emotion. "Yes, I'm sure." The doctor frowned, seeming as though she wanted to persuade me. but seeing my vacant eyes, she ultimately just sighed. Go sign the consent form for the procedure. I picked up the pen and, next to the family signature line, cleanly signed my own name, Sophia. Without a moment of hesitation, my handwriting was steadier than ever before. Lying on the operating table, the glare of the surgical lights pierced my eyes, making it impossible to keep them open. The cold clink of instruments sounded in my ears. An anesthetic, drip by drip, entered my body through the foreline. A chill spread from my arm to every limb and bone. I closed my eyes. Before darkness descended, the last image etched in my mind was Noah's smiling face at the wedding, as he swore eternal vows to Olivia. He had said, my one and only wife. How ironic. The surgery was over. I was wheeled out of the operating room by a nurse, and dragging my utterly weakened body, I sat in the recovery area for half an hour. I didn't. He go home. That place could no longer be called home. I took a taxi to a bank in the city center. Using my ID and access code, I opened the safe deposit box I had prepared for an entire year. Inside, a black external hard drive lay silently. I took it out and placed it in my carry-on bag. On that drive were all of Noah's illicit transaction records, from the start of his rise to power. It contained the business original sins he'd boasted about to me whenever he drank, eager to show off his capabilities. The financial flows of his overseas shell companies used for money laundering, backup copies of transfer receipts he used to bribe officials, evidence of the dirty tactics he'd employed during hostile takeovers of rival companies. Afterward, I returned to the mansion, once dubbed our love nest. Margaret, the housekeeper, saw my pale face and unsteady steps and exclaimed, hurrying forward to help me, Madam, what's wrong? You look so terrible. Should I call a doctor? I looked up, meeting her gaze with a coldness she had never seen before. Her outstretched hand froze in midair. Her eyes were filled with alarm, pity, and a touch of reluctance. I ignored her and walked directly to the master bedroom on the second floor. Opening the walk-in closet, the space was divided in two. On one side were countless expensive suits, shirts, and ties belonging to Noah. On the other side, mine. I didn't touch any of his belongings. I only took the treasured heirloom necklace my mother had left me, and all my art supplies. These were the tools of my trade, the means by which I had made a name for myself as an art gallery curator before marrying him. They were the only things truly mine, truly belonging to me. My suitcase was small, too small to hold 3 years of memories, or the shattered pieces of our love. As I went downstairs, I placed a document and a ring on the console table by the entrance. It was the signed divorce agreement. And the wedding ring he had given me. Finally. I walked into the living room and picked up the first painting I had ever given him. It depicted me at 23 and him at 27, smiling brightly beneath the ginkgo tree on our university campus. I pulled an art knife from my bag and, with all my strength, slashed down on that smiling face in the painting, again and again. The sound of the canvas tearing was shrill, yet deeply satisfying, until the figures in the painting were fragmented beyond recognition. I threw down the art knife, pulled my small suitcase, and walked out of the cage that had imprisoned me for 3 years, without a backward glance. The moment I stepped out the front door, Liam, Noah's assistant, called. I didn't answer. I could imagine he had already returned to the country, radiating triumph. He was probably in his car on the way home, a hint of impatience and condescending guilt about him, sending his assistant to gauge my reaction first. Did she make a scene? Did she cry? Let her vent. When she's done, just give her a card. A new bag should fix it. That was always his method. Using money and material possessions to smooth over all his mistakes. Unfortunately, this time, he was in for a disappointment. Meanwhile, at the airport's VIP lounge, Noah had just disembarked, looking travel-worn but unable to suppress the joy on his face. He had just settled Olivia into a hotel, promising her she'd move into the mansion in a few days. Now, he was eager to get home and see Sophia's reaction. He even had his excuses ready. He would tell her the wedding was merely a business alliance, meant to solidify cooperation with the Olivia family. He would tell her that she was still the one he loved, and the position of his official wife would always be hers. He would hold her, gently comfort her, and then give her the limited edition designer bag she had admired. He was convinced Sophia would, as she had countless times before, cry and make a scene, then choose to forgive him. After all, she loved him so much, and she was carrying his child. She couldn't leave him. He pulled out his phone and dialed Liam, his assistant. Are you home? He asked lightly. Did Vance make a fuss? On the other end, Liam's voice trembled almost imperceptibly. Mr. Noah. Noah frowned, displeased. Speak clearly, why are you stammering? Did she throw a terrible fit? Did she break everything? No, Mr. Noah. Liam took a deep breath, his voice still shaking. Mrs. Vance. She didn't make a scene. The wedding live stream. She saw it all. Noah's heart sank with a jolt. A dark premonition surged through him. This wasn't like Sophia at all. The calmer she was, the more abnormal it became. Where is she? He demanded sharply. The other end of the line was silent for a full 10 seconds, so long that Noah almost crushed his phone. Liam's voice, choked with tears, came through the receiver, every word hitting Noah's heart like a heavy hammer. Mr. Noah. Please brace yourself. The baby. It's gone. Mrs. Vance signed the divorce agreement and has left. Noah's mind went blank with a loud buzz. He rushed out of the airport like a madman, got into his car, and sped home. Pushing open the front door, he was met not by his wife's tearful accusations as he'd imagined, but by Liam's face, etched with distress and fear, and a single sentence that struck him like lightning. Mr. Noah, Mrs. Vance. She's really gone. Noah pushed Liam aside and stumbled frantically into the empty mansion. Living room, dining room, kitchen. There was no sign of Sophia anywhere. He rushed upstairs and pushed open the master bedroom door. The room was neat and tidy, with no signs of anything having been smashed. But everything belonging to Sophia had vanished. In the walk-in closet, her side of the wardrobe was completely empty. Her skincare products and jewelry were gone from the vanity. On the nightstand, only a single document and a cold ring lay forlornly. Noah, his hands trembling, picked up T. Key document. The 5 bold characters, divorce agreement, stung his eyes. At the bottom, Sophia's signature was cool and resolute. He clutched the agreement tightly, his gaze sweeping across the wall. The painting he loved most, which commemorated their first meeting, was now a pile of shredded canvas. His own face in the painting had been grotesquely disfigured by a sharp blade. A chill, starting from Noah's feet, shot straight up to the crown of his head. He finally realized. Sophia wasn't just throwing a tantrum. She genuinely didn't want him anymore. In's top-floor office. Outside the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, the city at dusk was a glittering tapestry of traffic and neon. I sat on the black leather sofa, my face as white as paper from blood loss and exhaustion. I gently pushed the black external hard drive across the table to the man opposite me. Julian. Founder of Sterling, Noah's most formidable rival in the business world. A man like a leopard, possessing both elegance and danger. He wore a well-tailored dark gray suit, no tie, with the top 2 buttons of his shirt undone, exuding an air of rebellious nonchalance. He didn't immediately look at the hard drive. Instead, he studied me with a sharp, piercing gaze. Miss Sophia, he began, his voice steadier than I'd expected. You don't look like you're here to talk business. I met his gaze, forcing a pale smile. I'm not here to talk business. I paused, then said, each word clear and deliberate, I'm here to hand you a weapon. This weapon is sharp enough to help you utterly dismantle Vance. And I only ask for one outcome. Noah, left with nothing. My voice was soft, yet it carried the fierce resolve of someone burning their bridges. Julian's eyebrow twitched almost imperceptibly. His gaze finally settled on the external hard drive. He didn't ask further questions, simply connecting the hard drive to his personal computer. As the files opened, the expression on his face underwent a subtle transfer. Mattyon. From initial scrutiny, to surprise, then to an undeniable hint of admiration and gravity. The contents were clearly far more substantial than he had anticipated. He closed the files, leaned back in his chair, fingers intertwined, and locked his gaze back on me. Why should I trust you? Or rather, if I help you take down Noah, what do I stand to gain? Besides these old grudges. I looked him straight in the eye and calmly laid out my ace card. Noah has a secret account in a Swiss, used for illicit transactions. Additionally, next Monday he plans to launch a hostile takeover of Aurora. His psychological bottom line is 45 yuan per share, and he's already turned 2 senior executives within Aurora. These are things you wouldn't be able to find. They were also core secrets I discovered last night, when he wasn't home. I opened his hidden safe in his study using our wedding anniversary as the password. Julian fell completely silent. He looked at me, and for the first time, genuine shock flickered in his eyes. He realized that the pale-faced, slender woman before him, who looked like she could be blown away by a gust of wind, was no fragile daughter flower at all. She was the sharpest, most lethal double-edged sword. After a long moment, he suddenly smiled. His smile held an appreciation for his prey, and an anticipation for the game about to unfold. Welcome, Miss Sophia. He stood up and extended a hand towards me. From today forward, all resources of Sterling are at your disposal. I didn't take his hand. I had just had surgery, my body was still weak, and my palm felt icy. Unfazed, he naturally withdrew his hand, then took a pre-drafted contract and a set of keys from a drawer, placing them before me. Here's your new identity and residence. An employment contract as an art investment consultant, and the keys to an apartment in the West District. Before find you, first learn to become a brand new you. As for revenge, there's no rush. We'll take our time. Watching him lose everything, piece by piece, is far more entertaining than a swift kill. I picked up the cold keys, clutching them tightly in my palm. I knew that from the moment I walked out of this office, there would be no turning back in my life. Ahead lay an abyss, dancing with the devil. Yet, I was willing. Noah completely lost his mind. In the first 24 hours after discovering Sophia had vanished, he leveraged almost every connection he had. Reporting her missing, hiring private detectives, pulling all city surveillance footage. He believed that with his resources, finding a living person in a city like Coastal would be effortless. But he was wrong. All traces of her had vanished completely at the back entrance of that hospital. Like a single drop of water, quietly merging into the vast ocean. He refused to believe it. Or rather, he wouldn't allow himself to believe it. He stubbornly thought she was just throwing a tantrum, hiding at a friend's house, waiting for him to coax her back. He started frantically calling all of Sophia's friends, from her best girlfriends, to college classmates, to former colleagues from the art gallery. The answers he received were uniformly cold. I don't know. Haven't seen her. Sophia? We haven't been in touch for a long time. After hanging up the last call, Noah violently smashed his phone against the wall. The phone screen instantly shattered into a spiderweb of cracks. This was the first time in his 30 years of life that he had experienced such a complete loss of control. A mixture of powerlessness, anxiety, and furious rage gnawed at his sanity. Just then, the doorbell of the mansion rang. Margaret went to open the door. Outside stood Olivia, dressed to the nines. She dragged several luxury brand suitcases, her face exuding a victor's smugness, and spoke in a sweet, coy voice. Noah, I'm here. Didn't you say I could move in today? As she spoke, she walked straight in, her gaze sweeping over the man she had coveted for so long, like a new mistress taking command. The decor here is so outdated, I'll get someone to redesign it. And those paintings, they have terrible taste. Get rid of them all. She imperiously instructed her assistant, who had followed her in. Noah looked at her vain and foolish face, and a surge of uncontrollable anger flared within him. Get out! His roar startled Olivia and the household staff into stunned silence. Olivia's eyes welled up with tears of indignation. Noah, why are you yelling at me? Didn't we just, I said get out. Noah's eyes were bloodshot, like an enraged beast. Take your things and disappear from here immediately. There's no place for you here. It was the first time he had ever lost his temper so violently with the usually compliant Olivia. Terrified, Olivia was crying as he ushered her and her luggage out. With a resounding bang, the mansion door slammed shut. The world was finally quiet. But it was a terrifying, suffocating silence. Noah collapsed onto the sofa, utterly dejected, and looked around the empty house, devoid of any trace of Sophia. He began, uncontrollably, to recall Sophia's kindness again and again. He remembered when he was starting his business, and funds were tight, Sophia had taken out all her savings, even sold her mother's jewelry, and eaten instant noodles with him for a month. He remembered one time he had a fever of 40 degrees Celsius, Sophia had stayed by his bedside, sleepless for 3 days and nights, gently wiping his body with warm water again and again. He remembered every time he came home drunk from entertaining, Sophia would silently prepare hangover soup for him, change his soiled clothes, and help him into bed. He remembered that because he had a sensitive stomach, Sophia would prepare various stomach-friendly meals for him, and every morning, she would have a warm breakfast ready. Those scenes, which he had long taken for granted, even grown somewhat tired of, now pierced his heart like red-hot needles. He had always believed Sophia's love was simply a given, that it was inexhaustible and limitless. Only now did he realize what he had truly lost. His phone rang, untimely. It was the private detective. Mr. Noah, we found something. The last call Mrs. Vance made before she disappeared was to Julian, of Sterling. Noah's pupils constricted sharply. He immediately drove to Sterling's building, but was stopped by the receptionist. A few minutes later, Julian emerged from the elevator, looking perfectly at ease, a formal smile on his face. Mr. Noah, what brings you here? A rare sight. Noah grabbed his collar, gritting his teeth. Where is Sophia? Where have you hidden her? Julian casually brushed his hand away, adjusted his collar, and spoke with an indifferent tone. Mr. Noah, your wife and I are not acquainted. However, seeing how anxious you are, I might offer a piece of advice. If a woman truly wants to hide from you, do you think you, by yourself, could ever find her? Julian's words were light, yet utterly provocative. Noah's fists clenched, knuckles cracking. The anxiety of not finding Sophia, combined with his suspicion of Julian, plunged him into a furious rage. He began to use business tactics indiscriminately, relentlessly suppressing Julian's affiliated enterprises. But was like a ball of cotton, all of Noah's heavy blows were easily absorbed and deflected. Sterling had been prepared. Noah experienced, for the first time, a sense of powerlessness, his efforts uselessly flailing. His prideful wealth and power seemed utterly ridiculous and useless in the face of a woman determined to leave him, and another man who was his equal. Late at night, he returned alone to the cold mansion. Facing the empty rooms, he muttered to himself almost hysterically, Sophia, stop messing around. Come back when you've had enough fun. I forgive you. I won't pursue this anymore. The baby's gone. But we're still young, we can have another one later. He still didn't realize where he had gone wrong. He still arrogantly believed that if he merely asked, Sophia should gratefully return to his side. Just then, Liam's phone call came through again, his voice filled with unprecedented panic. Mr. Noah, it's bad. Our crucial overseas acquisition project, the one we've been working on. It's suddenly under attack. Their methods. They're very similar to Julian's, but there's also an extra layer of. Liam didn't know how to describe it, but understood instantly. That extra layer was a precise strike, targeting the weaknesses in all his plans, something only he himself could recognize. Ruthless. Lethal. A terrifying thought, sending shivers down his spine, surfaced in his mind. It was Sophia. Only she knew all his cards. 3 months later. The Bay Art. I sat in the VIP section beside Julian, having transformed into a completely new person. My waist-length hair had been cut into a sleek, shoulder-length bob. I was dressed in a pristine white Chanel power suit, exuding elegance and professionalism. My face was adorned with subtle, exquisite makeup, concealing all traces of paleness and vulnerability. My new identity was an art investment consultant, hired by Sterling with a substantial salary. For these 3 months, I had been like a sponge, furiously absorbing everything. Julian had brought in top Wall Street financial analysts and business consultants to provide me with one-on-one intensive training. While recuperating, I studied finance, law, and business regulations. K-line charts and financial statements, once like hieroglyphs to me, were now as clear as the lines on my palm. And today, for the first time, I was making my official debut as Sura. It was also my first battle and my counterattack against Noah. Halfway through the auction, the main item of the evening was brought forward. An oil painting titled Nirvana. The artist was anonymous. The painting depicted scorched ashes. From the R.U. Inns, a resplendent phoenix, rising from the flames, struggled to spread its wings and soar towards the sky. The colors were intense, fiery, brimming with desperate struggle and the power of rebirth. This painting was mine. I had painted it after moving into my new apartment, locking myself in the studio for a full week, pouring all my blood and tears into it. I had submitted it for auction anonymously through Julian's channels. And a week before the auction, I had Julian spread the word. The rumor claimed that behind this painting lay a tragic story of betrayal, death, and rebirth. It had successfully captured the keen interest of the entire art investment community. The auctioneer began introducing the item. Starting bid, 500,000, 550,000, 600,000. From the back of the hall, a familiar voice rang out. It was Noah. He was here today. He sat not far from me, without Olivia by his side. He looked a bit thinner, with faint dark circles under his eyes, but he still maintained the dignified demeanor of a business magnate. I could feel his gaze subtly sweeping over my direction. Perhaps he just found me vaguely familiar. After all, the woman I was now was a world away from the meek, submissive housewife I had been 3 months ago. Julian whispered beside me, he seems very interested in this painting. I said nothing, just watched the stage. Noah raised his bidding paddle. 1 million. With his first bid, he raised the price by an entire order of magnitude, signaling his determination to win. He probably felt that the style of the painting held a frustrating familiarity. Or perhaps, he simply wanted to win against Julian, just once. Julian smiled and raised his paddle too. 1.2 million. 1.5 million. Noah instantly countered, a hint of irritation in his voice. 2 million, Julian said, utterly composed. The price began to skyrocket in the competition between the two men. The atmosphere in the H. all grew tense and subtle. Everyone could see it. This was no longer a mere art auction, but a direct confrontation between Vance and Sterling. When the price hit 5 million, fine beads of sweat were already forming on Noah's forehead. He stared intensely at Julian, seemingly trying to read something on his face. Just then, I slowly stood up. Under the gaze of hundreds of eyes in the room, I walked to the front of the stage and took the microphone from the auctioneer. Noah's eyes, following my movements, landed on my face. The moment he clearly saw me, his entire body froze. The bidding paddle in his hand clattered to the floor with a thud. He stared at me in disbelief. Staring at this woman with short hair, sharp eyes, vibrant red lipstick, and an aura of complete confidence. His lips parted slightly, as if he wanted to call my name, but no sound escaped. The expression on his face shifted from shock, to bewilderment, then to a profound terror he hadn't even recognized in himself. I ignored his gaze, which seemed almost to devour me. I raised the microphone and, facing the entire room and him, offered a brilliant yet icy smile. Hello everyone, I am Sura, the representative for Nirvana. It's a pleasure to see so much appreciation for this artwork. Before the final hammer fall, I'd like to share a bit about the creative concept behind this painting. My gaze cut through the crowd, striking Noah directly. Nirvana tells the story of a woman who was pushed into a fiery inferno by the lover she trusted most, her closest confidant, and burned to ashes. But she did not die. From the ashes, she reshaped her body with her own flesh and blood, growing new wings. And finally, she rose again, reborn from the flames. My voice was clear and calm, every word like a poisoned dagger, precisely stabbing into Noah's heart. I watched his face turn ashen, inch by agonizing inch. The smile on my lips deepened. So, the true value of this painting lies not in its technique, but in the spirit it embodies. It belongs only to those who truly understand the weight of the words loss and rebirth. Having finished, I returned the microphone to the auctioneer and walked back to my seat. A hush fell over the entire hall. A few seconds later, Julian raised his paddle again, his voice steady and strong. 10 million. This time, Noah did not counterbid. He simply stared fixedly at me, his eyes swirling with shock, fury, humiliation, and a trace of disheveled panic that even he couldn't comprehend. The auctioneer called out 3 times. Gavel falls. Congratulations to Mr. Julian, for acquiring the magnificent masterpiece Nirvana for 10 million. Thunderous applause erupted throughout the hall. And I, amidst the applause, meeting Noah's murderous gaze, slowly raised the champagne flute in my hand. A silent toast to him, and to myself. Noah, the game has only just begun. The auction concluded, and guests gradually dispersed. Julian went to complete the handover procedures. I walked alone towards the underground parking lot. Just as I reached my car, an arm seized mine violently from behind. A familiar scent, a mix of tobacco and cologne, invaded my nostrils. It was Noah. He gripped my wrist so tightly, his strength almost crushing my bones. His eyes were bloodshot, and his voice was hoarse, like sandpaper rubbing. Sophia, what exactly are you trying to do? Where have you been these past 3 months? An art consultant? Is this what you wanted? Come home with me. His tone was still that arrogant, commanding voice. As if I were just a childish, misbehaving kid. I looked at him coldly, and, word by word, clearly shook off his hand. Mr. Noah, you have the wrong person. My name is Sura. My detachment and coldness utterly infuriated him. What's with the act? He grabbed me again, his emotions spiraling out of control. Do you think just because you cut your hair and changed your clothes, I wouldn't recognize you? I'd recognize your paintings even if they were burned to ashes. Sophia, stop playing these pointless games. Come home with me. Now. I looked at his face, contorted with rage, and suddenly found it amusing. Which home? I said coldly. The one where you were keeping a mistress in secret, and then live-streamed another wedding for me to watch. Noah, do you actually believe the entire world revolves around you? My words, like sharp daggers, struck him, leaving him pale and speechless. Just then, a black Bentley silently pulled up beside me. The window rolled down, revealing Julian's unruffled face. He didn't look at Noah, just offered me a gentle smile. The paperwork's done. Get in. He even got out himself and opened the passenger door for me. His demeanor was gentlemanly, considerate, and utterly protective. I didn't spare Noah another glance, stepping directly into Julian's car. Watching her get into another man's car without a backward glance, watching the Bentley speed away, Noah's sanity finally shattered completely. Noah let out a suppressed roar and slammed his fist hard against the concrete pillar behind him. A dull thud echoed. Instantly, his knuckles were bloody. But he felt no pain. A panic and jealousy, 1,000 times more intense than any physical pain, was savagely devouring him. Inside the car, I watched the streetlights flash by outside the window in silence. Julian didn't speak either, simply turning up the car's heater a bit. After a long while, he finally spoke, breaking the silence. "Well done. What's the next step?" I turned my gaze back to him. "I don't understand business matters, you're the expert. I just provide the ammunition." The next piece of ammunition is the acquisition deal for project that he's been planning for half a year. I calmly relayed the information I had just gotten from Noah's study last night to Julian. After listening, a flicker of approval crossed Julian's eyes. "Your intelligence is more valuable than any commercial spy I've paid a fortune for." He smiled. "Don't worry, I'll make sure this piece of ammunition explodes with a bang." Sure enough, within 3 days, news of Vance's stock plummeting made headlines across all financial media. Julian used the information I provided to pull the rug out from under Noah, successfully hijacking project and, in turn, acquiring the target company that was crucial to Vance. Vance was severely weakened, and discontent began to surface among its internal shareholders. Noah was in a complete state of disarray. And, that dead weight, once again delivered a perfect assist for me. She was probably jealous of my moment in the spotlight at the auction, so she secretly contacted marketing accounts and media outlets to extensively smear my name. They claimed I was a gold digger who abandoned my husband and child for money, climbing the social ladder by latching onto Julian. The news articles were vividly written, portraying her as an innocent, pitiful victim whose marriage was torn apart by the other woman. The internet instantly erupted in a barrage of condemnation against Sura. I made no response. Julian's PR team immediately issued a lawyer's letter. At the same time, I seized the opportunity to anonymously leak another story to a media outlet I knew. It was a story about a former renowned art gallery curator who sacrificed her career for love, only to be brutally betrayed by her husband 3 months into her pregnancy, witnessing her husband's wedding live-streamed with the other woman, and suffering a miscarriage from heartbreak. The story didn't mention any names, but all the details perfectly matched Noah, Olivia, and me. Public opinion instantly made a dramatic U-turn. Netizens who had just been calling me a gold digger a second ago immediately began digging deep into Noah and Olivia's illustrious deeds. The scandal of Noah's marital infidelity and Olivia knowingly being the other woman was completely exposed. Vance's stock price plummeted once again. Noah and Olivia became public enemies, shunned by all. Plagued by negative publicity, their careers took a massive hit, and partners scrambled to distance themselves. For the first time, Noah understood what it meant to be besieged on all sides. He started calling and messaging me frantically. His name kept flashing on my phone screen. The messages, too, shifted from initial commands and interrogations. "Sophia, you need to clarify this immediately. Are you insane? Do you want to ruin me?" The later threats and intimidation, "If you don't come back, I swear I'll make sure you can't survive in coastal." And finally, to a trace of humble pleading and remorse, "ACI, I was wrong. Please come back? Let's not fight anymore. Just come back, and I'll cut ties with Olivia immediately. We can go back to how we were. ACI, please pick up the phone, I'm begging you." I watched the messages, deleting them one by one, my face devoid of expression. Then, I blocked him, along with all his family's contact information. His remorse, to me, was cheaper than roadside trash. Just as I thought I might have a few days of peace, an unexpected person appeared downstairs at my new apartment. It was Noah's mother, my former mother-in-law, who had once been endlessly critical and domineering towards me. "ACI, as long as you're willing to come back and live properly with Noah, I promise I'll make him kick out that manipulative woman, Olivia, immediately. From now on, everything in the Vance family will be yours." I finally smiled. A bitter, sorrowful smile. "Mrs. Eleanor." I looked at her, telling her clearly, word for word. Before, what I wanted was Noah's love. Back then, you thought my love was worthless. But now, what I want is Vance's demise. She was so stunned she couldn't utter a word, only able to point at me, trembling with rage. You venomous woman. You'll get your comeuppance." Not wanting to waste any more words on her, I turned to go upstairs. Just as the elevator doors were about to close, I acted as if I'd suddenly remembered something, turning back to kindly remind her. Oh, right, I forgot to tell you. Your future dear-in-law, Olivia's father, seems to be secretly transferring assets recently, preparing to cut ties with Vance. After all, nobody wants to be tied to a sinking ship, do they? The elevator door slowly closed, cutting off her face, which had instantly contorted in terror. It was clear that an even bigger storm was about to erupt within the Vance family. And sure enough, that very evening, my former mother-in-law told Noah the news. Noah initially disbelieved it, but after investigating, he discovered that the Bai family indeed had been secretly transferring assets. At this point, Vance's partners and investors, who had been cautiously observing, began to waver and withdraw their investments. Vance's capital chain faced unprecedented severe problems. Seeing this, Olivia, the savior Noah had placed so much hope in, no longer bothered to hide her true colors. The two completely fell out in the mansion. Arguments, shouting, and physical altercations left the place in a complete mess. In stark contrast to his disarray, my reputation was soaring. With support, I curated an online art exhibition called New. I leveraged my past connections in the art world and my unique vision to discover and champion several exceptionally talented but overlooked new painters. The art exhibition achieved unprecedented success. The name Sura began to appear frequently in major art publications and investment summits. It was no longer just a pseudonym but had become a brand new, shining gold standard in the art investment world. The media loved to create such stark contrasts. On the front page of the financial section was a radiant photo of me, wearing a couture suit, standing confidently and eloquently speaking at an industry summit. In a corner of the social section was a candid shot of Noah, looking haggard and disheveled, his suit wrinkled, surrounded by a throng of reporters and angry shareholders demanding their money back, blocked downstairs at his company. This ultimate irony was more capable of shattering a person's pride than any malicious words. Julian sat on the sofa in my office, looking at that day's newspaper with keen interest. He looked up, his gaze falling on me, and in his eyes, there was a complex emotion I couldn't quite decipher. Sophia, you were born to be in the spotlight. I just offered a faint smile, offering no reply. The thrill of revenge wasn't as intense as I had imagined. My heart remained like a dry well, perfectly still. Everything I did was merely to reclaim what rightfully belonged to me, my dignity, my career, and a life of my own, defined by no one else. My assistant knocked and entered, handing me a document. Miss Sura, there's a new development from Vance. To save themselves, they're preparing to go all in and relaunch Genesis, which was shelved 5 years ago. I opened the document, and my fingertips paused slightly when I saw the words Genesis. I knew about this project. It was the proudest, yet also the most perilous, move in Noah's rise to power. It had been forcibly halted by regulatory authorities years ago due to excessively high risks. And within the project's core technology lay a fatal flaw. A flaw that only I knew about, besides Noah. I closed the document, looked up, and said to Julian, the moment for the final strike has come. I submitted the fatal flaw of the Genesis, along with an analysis report of the systemic financial risks it could trigger, to the highest level financial regulatory body through Julian's channels. The day after Vance held a press conference to publicly announce the relaunch of Genesis, an investigation team from the regulatory body moved into Vance. With swift and decisive action, the project was immediately suspended. This served as a breakthrough, triggering a comprehensive financial and compliance investigation into Vance. The original sins Noah had buried for years were unearthed one by one, with no place to hide, in the face of the undeniable evidence provided by Julian. Tax evasion, financial fraud, commercial bribery, malicious market manipulation. Each charge was enough to seal his doom. The next day, news exploded everywhere. Vance declares on liquidation, founder legally on multiple charges, facing 10 in prison. I looked at the news on my phone and then turned off the screen. It was all over. The dust had settled. Noah was sentenced to 15 years in prison after being found guilty. Olivia also received a 3-year sentence for her involvement in illegal transactions and suspected extortion. The family was completely ruined. All their former glory had become nothing but fleeting memories, the talk of the town for coastal residents. As for me, I started my new life. I used the 10 million from the auction of the painting Nirvana to establish a youth art fund, also named Nirvana. It was dedicated to discovering and supporting more young artists who, like my past self, were talented but lacked opportunities. I reclaimed my career and found the person I had lost for too long in love. Julian confessed his feelings to me. On a sun-drenched afternoon, on the terrace of my new art studio. He said, "Sophia, I don't want to be your ally anymore, I want to be your lover." I looked into his sincere and fervent eyes and shook my head. "Julian, thank you. But please, give me a little more time. I want to live as Sophia first, not to get revenge on anyone, not to rely on anyone, but truly, for myself." He looked a bit disappointed but quickly softened into a smile of understanding. "All right, I'll wait for you." It was an open-ended, yet hopeful, conclusion. I no longer needed another relationship to prove my worth. My worth was something I created for myself. 6 months later, my solo art exhibition office. Ally opened at the Coastal Art. The theme of the exhibition was Sophia. It featured my latest works, as well as those youthful yet spirited paintings from my university days. On the opening day, I stood under the spotlight, looking out at the packed crowd below the stage. They had come for me, and for my art. In the front row of the crowd, I saw Julian. He was wearing a casual suit, his usual sharp business demeanor softened, his eyes full of a gentle smile. He looked at me, silently mouthing words. "You're beautiful." I picked up the microphone, took a deep breath, and offered a radiant, heartfelt smile. "Hello, everyone. My name is Sophia." My new beginning wasn't because I took revenge on anyone, nor was it because I relied on anyone. It was because, finally, I had learned how to love myself. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.